to La Vida Rosa. I'm your host, Pinky, and today we're going to be talking about the Best Man final chapters. So if you'd like to see more, then just stay tuned, like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into this video. Y'all, I'm a consistent queen, okay? Y'all didn't even know I was coming to y'all with the Best Man, but I finished it the other day. I didn't even plan on doing a rant on it, but it was so good. I really didn't expect for it to be that good. Because, you know, you don't expect sequels to even come close to being as good as the original film. And we all know, in the Black community, The Best Man is a classic, okay? It's one of those films we've all seen, we all love. And, you know, it's kind of hard to live up to the original. Let's just be real. But I do have to say, Best Man Holiday was really, really good. I rewatched that not too long ago, and it kept my attention the entire time. It was good. And I also think it's a lot of nostalgia when it comes to these sequels. Like, you really enjoyed the first film, and you kind of do want to see, like, how did this story play out? Like, how did y'all relationship end up working out in the long run? How did your careers go? Like, I just want to see where y'all are today, and you rarely get that, especially with Black films. Now, like I said, in the beginning I was a little skeptical. I think I was judging a little bit too harshly as well, but I felt like it was a little corny. I felt like it was gonna be a little Hallmarkish. I felt like, okay, like, I get it, y'all are wrapping this up and this is supposed to be like the final chapter, y'all, so y'all gonna like wrap the story up. I get that, but it felt a little perfect, you know what I'm saying, a little too perfect. But then they started throwing wrenches in there. I'm like, okay. And I do feel like a lot of these situations were a little predictable, but just, you know, don't be so predictable that I can tell you exactly what's about to happen. And this is my first time watching it. I love that every problem didn't get solved in the next episode. I love that they drug it out throughout the entire series. It came off as a little bit more realistic and not as rushed. It was 8 episodes, right? I feel like these 8 episodes gave us like 3 more films because they were like an hour each. They gave us 3 movies worth of drama. Funny, so funny, hilarious. These actors, I mean, duh. This is an all-star cast. Morris Chestnut, Regina Hall, Taye Diggs, Nia Long, like Terrence Howard, Sanaa Lathan. Forgive me if I'm forgetting the other people's names. These are veterans. These are people I've literally been watching my whole life. They've been killing it the entire time. The dramatic acting was good. They were funny. The comedic timing was there. Not to mention, y'all, the allegations are holding up. Black don't crack. Everybody looked good. No, they didn't look exactly the same as they did 20 years ago. Who does? Okay? But they don't look like they're in their 50s. They look good. And I love the fact that they're all successful. You know, because this is not unrealistic. I know successful Black people in my real life, and I love to see that depicted on screen. But I love that these people, even though they've quote unquote made it in so many ways, they still feel insecure about certain things, whether it's about their career. They want to make a career change. They want to pivot, you know what I'm saying? But they might be scared too. They might be scared that they're not going to make the money they used to make. Or maybe they're a doting wife and mother, and they're waking up and they're realizing, I've been on autopilot for like 20 years and I don't even know what it is that I really want to do. Or maybe I need to pursue my dreams. I helped you get to your dream. Let me pursue mine. The friendship ups and downs. I love the fact that they had each other's back. Like, even Murch was mad at Harper for how he was portrayed in the movie, and he didn't even show up to his movie premiere. He was mad at all the guys for how they were treating him, but at the end of the day, they still came and supported him at his fight when they found out about it. And when they found out Harper was getting a divorce, they all came and supported him, even after all the stuff that Harper has done to them. Harper can be very selfish. We're gonna get to him, but they still had his back. Y'all, I'm probably gonna call them by their real names because I really can't remember their names on this movie like that. But when Regina Hall had Sanaa Lathan's back when it came to Harper going off on her about moving to Ghana, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just love little moments like that. I feel like a lot of times in media we see Black people going at it, but to see them having each other's back, I like seeing that. Okay, now that I got all of that out of the way, let's get into the individual people. I think I'm gonna go ahead and start off with Murch and Candy. So first things first, look, I'm so glad they moved past Candy being a stripper, okay? We get it. She was a stripper back in the day, She was trying to support herself through school, okay? We got it. I didn't like how on the last movie they made that a whole storyline about, was she a prostitute? Was she not a prostitute? I didn't like the fact that they were dwelling on that, and it was giving like a slut-shamey vibe. Murch, you married her, you love her, like regardless of what she did in her past. I kind of wish they would have kept that in the past. And also, you know, in the first movie, Candy didn't really get much of a storyline. She didn't get really, we didn't really get to know her in the first movie, and I feel like we really didn't get to know her in the second movie. You know, we see her coming up with natural remedies for anxiety. I love that's the route that they were taking with her, that she was studious, she was in academia, she was really serious about, you know, getting this degree. I ain't gonna lie, it was 2 times I was really scared that people were gonna cheat on this show, and one of those times I thought Candy was like gonna be secretly cheating with that professor, and then it turned out he was a creep. I was kind of like, whew, but then I was like, whew.
I was so disgusted with that man because he really put on a front like he was trying to help her out. He fully took advantage of the fact that she was so eager to do well. And he was creeping on her the entire time. I mean, he came up in her house and was, you know, laughing with her husband, and that is what you decide to do? Like, it was so disgusting. He lucky Murch didn't come up there and roundhouse kick him. And I felt so bad for her because she was clearly shook by what he did. But I'm happy that she did stand up for herself eventually.
I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on that storyline. Like, yes, she sent the letter, but I don't think we really got much closure on what actually happened to him. But I love the fact that it didn't hinder her from moving forward and becoming successful. I wish we got to know Candy better. Like, all we got to see was Candy in the books, and we didn't really get to see much of her outside of, you know, the little ups and downs she was having with Murch. I do love the fact that her and Murch love each other. Like, they have the healthiest relationship out of all of these people. Yeah, they had their little dry spells, but they had each other's back, and they were supportive when they really needed to be. Let's move on to Murch. Murch needed therapy. Murch, you the #1 people pleaser in America. #1 pushover. Can't nobody help that you have an inferiority complex and you don't set any boundaries. That's where his rage comes from. That's why I love the fact that they incorporated him being an MMA fighter into this, because people that tend to be a people pleaser and suppress their own feelings, they do have a lot of rage, speaking from experience. So that made plenty of sense that he became an MMA fighter and he wants to like beat people down and let out all that, you know, rage in a healthy way. I get that. But for him to get mad at everybody else for, you know, how he was portrayed in the movie and how the guys talk to him, you never check them. Quentin don't let nobody talk to him crazy, and neither does Lance. So that's kind of on you that you don't check them when they talk to you like that. How you can't be mad at nobody but yourself for that. And then you know, him being so desperate to want to be the best man. It was like you weren't even paying attention to your wife on this beautiful vacation. You couldn't even enjoy that because you wanted to be a personal assistant to the groom. Like, come on now. Like, I get you want to, you know, feel worthy in your friendships, but speak up and say that out of your mouth. Like, that's why I say he needed therapy, because he was just very passive aggressive and it was so annoying. And then when it came to his wife, you know, I feel like their dynamic was she supported him in his career for years and years and years, and finally it was her time to, you know, pursue her dreams. And, you know, he kind of was upset with her at times where he had to be the one to pick up the slack where with the girls and having to pick them up, and she just assumed he didn't have nothing else to do, you know, so you go do this. And it's like, how many times did you do that to her? You know what I'm saying? Did you ever question whether how she felt during those times? And for you to be snapping on her out of nowhere, it's like, go deal with that. Even with the Karen moment, I felt bad for him because, you know, black men, a big scary black man against a white woman who's afraid, oh my, get my dog, oh, you know what I'm saying? Even though she was completely in the wrong, she was trying to steal their cab, even though his daughter was clearly in there first. And then the lady called the cops out of nowhere. It just another example of how Murch doesn't really stand up for himself. His daughter felt some type of way about that.
Even though it is a catch-22, because if you do something about it, you could end up not going home. But like Quentin said, like, you could have at least, you know, recorded it. And then when he ended up seeing the woman on the street, he had all these vengeance feelings of wanting to confront her, and, you know, he never actually fell through, and it made him feel less of a person because of it. And that's not unlike how he handles most situations, even with his friends.
It was nice to see Murch kind of have that, existential crisis and kind of work through that. And like I said, for someone in their 50s to be going through that, it kind of makes me at 30, feel a little bit better about not knowing exactly what I want, not being exactly where I want to be in life. It just shows you that, you know what I'm saying? Nobody 100% has it together. It really doesn't matter what age. Let me get Lance out of the way. First of all, Morris Chestnut. Fine. Fine. Okay? Morris, how you been fine my whole life? That's crazy. I just had to say that. But I hate the fact that they gave him so many like gratuitous, vulgar, like unnecessarily vulgar like sex scenes. Like I was so turned off by all that. The limo scene, it just was like jump scare. Like I did not need to see that. Like y'all just throwing this in there to be nasty. Goodness, and I'd be like skip. I don't need to see that. Like it's so unnecessary. But and then him jumping in the pool naked. Like I get it. It's kind of like they were trying to show that he regressed to where he was before he married Mia. He used to cheat on Mia. He was this famous football player, big man on campus, so he could get any woman that he wanted. I see where they were going with that. Like they were just showing he regressed after his wife died because he really didn't know what to do with himself. He was grieving. And I loved how they had him grieve for a long time. Like they had him grieve for like some years. And I feel like that's very realistic. I just hate that Mia passed away in that last film. Not only was it heart-wrenching, but I would have loved to see her character now. We got to see a couple of scenes with her in it. They were like flashback scenes. And I like seeing that, but I kind of wish we got to see a little bit more of that. And then the whole thing with the Jamaican lady, which she was gorgeous. And, I can understand why he fell for her, but she just so happened to move to New York. I feel like that was one of those hallmark moments, y'all. The way they just tied that up so perfectly. Could we get a little bit more backstory? Even with how they reconnected, he just randomly called her from Instagram. Like, come on. But I also love how they showed him going through like kind of like a midlife crisis. He tried to go back and play football and he found out he was too old. He was going to break up his bones, child. You better go somewhere and sit down. And then he tried to be a commentator and then he beat up what's his name? My mind is going blank. I can't remember nobody's name, but he beat up this guy. It was so funny. Just to see them going back and forth, that was hilarious. His cologne ad where he could not act whatsoever, where he could barely give a sultry. I've never looked at Morris Chestnut as funny. Like we always look at him as like the heartthrob, but he was funny. Like he was really funny on those scenes. He made the circle back around the coaching. I thought that was great. But then we got to see his tumultuous relationship with his child, who is non-binary, and how he navigated that, because he's this staunch Christian man, even though y'all, I feel like he's full of it when it comes to being like this Christian man. He wants to wave his Bible. It falls flat for me. I feel like he's so full of it because it's, he only seems to like, wave the Christian flag when it's convenient for him. You want to be out here and be a slut and, sleep with all these women, but then you want to act like you're such a Christian man. To see him go through the trials and tribulations with his child and finally come full circle at the end, that was beautiful, especially since they told him that sometimes I wish it was you instead of my mom. I was like, that was heart-wrenching, y'all. That was heart-wrenching. They had some really good scenes where it was like, I was clutching my pearls, child. I was clutching my pearls. So let's move on to Shelby and Quentin. The show picks up with them all going to this gorgeous island. They're going there for Quentin's wedding to Nicole R.E. Parker, and I was so happy to see her on this movie. It was a great surprise. She's so funny as well. Oh my goodness, I loved her character. I wish we could have got a little bit more. Quentin was already someone who was constantly high, but she had him on another level, child. They was on some shrooms or something. They was out of their mind on this trip. So on this trip, Shelby crashed the trip. We've seen Quentin and Shelby have this will they, won't they. They always end up in bed together at the end of every movie. And, you know, they always bicker and go back and forth and they hate each other. It's kind of like that, you know, Max and Kyle type of relationship where it's like a thin line between love and hate. And, like, I get it, y'all, I get it, but I never could quite get into their relationship. They couldn't quite make it believable for me. I'm sorry. She was being so thirsty trying to get him, you know, doing the striptease and constantly, you know, seducing him. And then when Nicole Ari Parker stepped to her and told her, look, you know, I'm gonna need for you to leave, and she was about to leave, and Quentin basically professed his love for her at the airport. Like he had to go off on her first, but then he, you know, professed his love for her. And I know this was supposed to be like a lovey-dovey, heartwarming moment. You know, they ended up getting married instead of him marrying somebody else. But y'all, it felt so flat for me. I wasn't into it. I would have loved it a little bit more if they had more of the will they, won't they struggle throughout the years, and then maybe ended up together. And then on top of that, after they got married, she kind of dropped a Mari bomb on top of him that he is the one that actually fathered her daughter. And there was no confrontation. And I feel like that's very unrealistic, like for anybody in general, but especially for those two characters. Like, he would have definitely went off on her. He would have definitely went off on her. It definitely would have caused some strain in their relationship. Like, like, y'all, that didn't make any sense. See, that's what I'm talking about. There were some hallmark moments that I'm just like, at least have some sort of reaction. He was just like, oh, well, let's call her. And then throughout the entire series, his daughter is calling him Quentin, and he's like, well, when are you gonna start calling me dad? And she called him dad once he had a heart attack. It's just, I was like, okay, let me suspend some disbelief. I did like getting the backstory with his father and how Quentin basically grew up kind of like a trust fund kid. I didn't like, is that something that we knew? His dad had all of these successful businesses and Quentin took over, but during C-19 one of them failed, and you know, he was really down on himself, and so this other company wanted to come buy them out, and him and his dad were having like a power struggle over it. Love the actor that played his dad. He was so funny, and I feel like it was so convincing that he would have a dad like that, because you know, it makes sense because Quentin is so just rough around the edges. When it finally came out that his dad was having, I'm guessing, like some mental struggles, you know, that comes with age, and they looked at his house and his house was a mess. That was so relatable to me. When my grandma got a little bit older and you see the signs that they are starting to need some assistance and they will never ask for your help, they will never tell you what's really going on, and you actually see with your own eyes what's happening, it's like a wow moment. It's like, have I not been paying attention? You kind of blame yourself. Where was I when all this was happening? And a lot of times they're just hiding it from you. You know, they don't want to scare you. They want to still be independent when really they need help. And so I love that they added that into his storyline, that they had to get his dad an aid. Even with his business, he was paying the secretary too much. Like, all of that was just so like, oh my goodness, almost triggering, y'all. I ain't gonna lie, almost triggering, because that is how it happens. Like, you just find out things and it's like, wow, where have I been? I love to see that vulnerability from Quentin, because he loves to, like, you know, cover it up with humor. We got to see a human side of him when we get to his heart attacks and how he didn't want to slow down. And Shelby, you know, this is where we saw Shelby's true love for him. This is when I really started, like, really accepting them as a couple, because you could see that she truly loved him, and she was trying to do everything she could, because she's one of those really self-centered people. You know, everything's about me. I'm spending all this money on me, rich, you know, all this designer, all that. But when it came down to his health, she got real serious and wanted him to buckle down. And, you know, he didn't want to accept the fact that he was getting older and that he was having health issues, and he wanted to keep on drinking. And, you know, that caused tension in a relationship. And so when he had that second heart attack scare, you know, his butt got in line. It's crazy because on, what's that show called? And Just Like That, Carrie found her husband having a heart attack after being on a Peloton. And I'm like, are they about to do the same thing to Quentin? Y'all, if they would have took Quentin out of here, I wouldn't be able to take it. I already broke down with Mia. I wouldn't be able to take it. That would have hurt, because y'all did y'all best to make me love Quentin. I really thought they was gonna take him out of here. Thank God he survived. Shelby, we got to see her, you know, her housewives thing. I love the Watch What Happens Live segment they did with Andy. It was so realistic because I'm a housewives fan. So it was so realistic. I love that little scene they filmed when she found out that Quentin was getting married. That was hilarious. That was so good. That was like chef's kiss. Like some of the stuff that happened on this show was just like so perfectly placed. I love that they showed that she dumbed herself down to be on reality TV, because I think a lot of women in reality TV do the same thing. You know, we see people like Dr. Wendy, you know, get down in the gutter with Mia. We see that, but I love that they showed a different side to her, that I was on the debate team. You know, I'm actually intelligent. I act like this so I can make money. But I feel like most of her storyline was either centered around Quentin, or it was just very surface level. And like I said, I feel like they could have delved deeper into the fact that this has been Quentin's child this whole time. Like, I would have loved to, like, why did you keep that from him? Let's move on to Harper and Robin. Harper is the problem, has been the problem, and will always be the problem. Therefore, he is the villain of this series. He is, like, until he, you know, gets some help with that narcissism, child, he will always be the problem in all of his relationships, whether it's friendships, whether it's romantic. I feel like when his daughter get older, they might have a little issue too, because this man is all about self, okay? From the very first movie, when, like, how dare you sleep with your best friend's girl and then put it in a book and think you weren't gonna get popped, like, and think y'all friendship was gonna survive, child. The fact that him and Lance are still friends is kind of unrealistic to me. Like, even though they showed a long time gap between the first movie and the second movie and how they still weren't cool, I just don't see how they could be. Lance would have never got over that. He's the type to hold a grudge for life, but it's a show. We want to see all of them together. I get it. So yeah, getting back to Harper, no self-awareness whatsoever, completely self-centered. When Robin said he really acts like the people in his life are like characters in his books, and he feels like he could play God and do this and do that, and they should just fall in line, that was so real. Like, yes, that's exactly how he acts. Like when he took her to this new fancy house that she was supposed to just fall in love with because it's a symbol of his success. I saw where he was coming from. Yes, when you make more money and you're more successful, you do want to upgrade. I get that. But why couldn't you just compromise? Why did you go out and find a house? Why didn't y'all house hunt together? And what's even crazier, you made her move into this big house and then you disappeared for like 2 episodes. I mean, you might as well have disappeared for a year in their universe. Like, and you left her in this big house by herself with her child. And so it doesn't shock me that she started finding interest in this other man. Like, I don't think she ever went there. That's another time where I thought some cheating was gonna go down, okay? Low-key, he might have would have deserved after what he did with it. We're gonna get to it. She kind of had to throw herself in her work, and it doesn't shock me that she started to find interest in someone else that had more of an interest in what she was interested in. Because where are you? Where's my husband? You left me alone on New Year's? Like, you couldn't take a break from writing for one night? Were you going during Christmas too? Like, come on, like, that's too much. At the end of the day, we all knew their relationship was not gonna work. We knew it. We knew it. And even you knew it, Robin. He proposed to you at his best friend's wedding. First of all, trash. You proposed at your best friend's wedding the day after you cheat on her with Jordan. And Jordan is in the room. Gagged. And we're going to get to Jordan and how she must have the lowest of the low self-esteem to be dealing with him. And you still decide to marry him. You're married to him and you decide to be passive aggressive for all these years. You decide to devote yourself to him and, you know, kind of push your dreams to the side. And so now that you're in this moment in your life, you're like, I'm tired of doing that. I don't want to do that anymore. And, you know, he's confused because it's like, you've been accepting it for all these years. You know what I'm saying? When they go to counseling, it's like, the counselor's like, but you didn't even let him know how you felt. You just wanted him to read your mind. And, you know, in that aspect, I can't even blame him for not knowing, because you never expressed that to him. I think we knew from the very first movie they were not going to make it. I was kind of shocked in the second movie they were still together. You know what I'm saying? Like, we knew they were not going to make it, but I love how they had it play out over time during the series. And then so when we got to the point where they were divorcing and she wants to take the child to Ghana, of all, like, overseas. Like, it's one thing to move across the country, but to move overseas with his child, I felt like it was a power play. I felt like it was a little petty. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was dead wrong for you to take that child out of the country. As much as I can't stand Harper, that dead wrong. And then the baby is crying on the way out. I would have turned right back around. I feel like she could have found a better compromise than to completely leave the country. That's the only part where I feel like she was dead wrong. But a lot of people were like, Harper is the show villain. She's the true villain. No. I feel like what Robin went through is what a lot of people went through in their marriages. Like, they suppressed themselves. They played the backseat role. You're suppressing a lot of rage because you're never getting your needs met. You're constantly meeting other people's needs, but you're not expressing that to the person. So it comes out in different ways, and it just so happens it came out in this way. But I do think she was wrong in that instance of taking the child, but I don't think she was wrong for leaving him. I don't think she was wrong for her feelings, period. So let's move on to Jordan and Harper. Y'all both deserve to get popped. I don't know how y'all got out of this unscathed. Like, I'm not saying that we had to have a cat fight between Robin and Jordan, but she at least deserved to get read. She at least deserved to get gone off on. Like, you played in my face for 20 years. You and Harper played in that lady face for 20 years, acting like, oh no, this is my good sis. This is why women be skeptical of these close female friends. That's why we be skeptical. Look what just happened to Blair Underwood. He divorced his wife of like however many years to marry his best friend that he's been good friends with for 20 years. Now they get married. Okay? See, this why we put our foot down with that, because y'all be playing in people's faces. Okay? For you to actually even give Harper the time of day after he played you all those years ago, for you it to be 20 years later and you allow him to play you once again, because he's married, and you allow him to play you once again, it just makes me feel like your self-esteem got to be in the gutter. Like, why would you allow yourself to get played like that? You are Jordan. Like, you are this successful businesswoman. Yes, we've seen you have love interest after love interest, and we saw that it didn't work out. Side note, why did they give Terry Silver to play her love interest in this series? I would have left him too. Like, really? At least get somebody fine. Y'all could have got Lorenz Tate. Y'all could have got Lorenz. Come on. It's so many heartthrobs from the 90s y'all could have got. Is this why none of your relationships worked out? Because you were holding out for Harper? I mean, is that why? And then y'all didn't even end up together. Like, that's how it go though, y'all. A lot of times when you have this will they won't they type of relationship, it don't end up working when they actually get together, because y'all really don't want to be. If y'all want to be together, y'all will be together. Period. Especially when y'all sneaking behind the wife's back, it ain't never gonna work. Not for real. I don't know. Like, I feel like her storyline kind of fell flat. I wish they kind of would have like had her really get serious with the other guy and then maybe have more of a struggle with Harper, but they just kind of fell right back into their old ways. And I don't know. I was so disgusted. One or both of them needed to be knocked out. I don't care who did it. Somebody needed to be knocked out. Oh, y'all, I forgot. That scene between Harper and Robin where he was going off on her, which, y'all, like I said, I think she was wrong for taking that child to Ghana. But the way he was talking to her and going off on her in front of everybody like that, I know she confronted him, but the way he was going off, and then he tried to get in Candy's face, and Murch had to stand up for his wife. I'm like, you better stand up for your wife, Murch. He just don't know that you're a black belt right now. He could, you better let him know. You better not let him talk to your wife like that. Yes, Murch, I was here for that. He did way more than Quentin. When Harper was talking to Shelby crazy, Quentin was playing. Quentin said, keep my wife's name out your effing mouth. He had his Will Smith moment, y'all. I was on the floor. The scene was already so good because of the drama, but when he said that, I had to rewind it like 5 times. I'm sorry. That's tickling me even now. Quentin is so funny. This was so good. Y'all know how I feel about this series. Y'all let me know. Did y'all watch it down below? How did y'all like it? Did y'all think it was good? I would love to hear your opinion. Also, I was thinking about rewatching The Best Man and Best Man Holiday and maybe doing a rant on those, like make that a separate video. Y'all let me know if y'all would be interested in that. And yes, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Peace.